I scored a 99.1 percentile on CAT 2023. I got calls from a lot of IIMs, FMS, IFTs, etc. And I did not go to any of them. I decided not to do an MBA at all. In this video, I will tell you why I took that decision, what I am doing now, and some food for thought. अगर आप ऐसे फेज में हो जहाँ पे आप अपनी लाइफ के कुछ डिसीजन लेने वाले हो, कौन सी डिग्री लेनी, कॉलेज जाना है नहीं जाना, तो आई थिंक दिस विल बी अ हेल्पफुल वीडियो फॉर यू. So let me tell you about my story real quick. In June of 2023, my parents really wanted me to give the CAT and do an MBA like most parents do, but I wasn't so sure. But मैंने सोचा parents की इतनी इच्छा है, let's just give the exam and then figure things out. So in July or August, I started preparing for the exam. I gave myself a good 3 months to prepare. अभी preparation के time पे I was very clear about how I wanted to prepare and what I wanted to do. Right? I knew VRC I was naturally good at because I had practice in writing, reading English since a very young age. So I was not too concerned about that part. DILR and quant I struggled with because I was not exceptional at math. So I decided to spend most of my preparation time in practicing DILR sets and improving my quant. And I put a very robust strategy in place where I would try and get maximum marks from BRC and do enough in DILR and quant that I scored better than most people. And fortunately, that strategy worked out for me. I practiced it during the mocks and then executed it in the exam, and it worked out well. I scored well. The results came out. My parents were happy. I was happy. But to be completely honest with you, I wasn't particularly thrilled about what happened and what was to come, right? Because I knew that after getting a good score, I would be expected to give the interviews and then hopefully get into some college and then do an MBA. But I still wasn't sure whether this was for me or not. So I said, let's take some time to think about it. So exam के बाद मैंने research शुरू किया because I thought I'll see at what colleges I can get, how the interview round looks like, what an MBA structure looks like, all of that. तो ये research मैंने YouTube पे शुरू किया and I have a habit कि YouTube पे मैं video देखता हूँ, so I go into the comments and try and read the comments to get a fuller idea of what is happening. So as usual, I start watching videos and then I start going into the comment section. Comment section में जाके I realized कि there are hundreds of thousands of aspirants from across the country और ये सारे लोग अलग अलग economic background से आ रहे हैं, social background से आ रहे हैं, educational background से आ रहे हैं, and all of them want the same thing. All of them want to score well in CAT. All of them want to do an MBA और सबको IIM में admission चाहिए so that they can get a good job and so that they can earn well. And I started to realize that people see an MBA from a good college as a one-way ticket to money, to success, to a good job, to everything that they essentially want in life. And that is when I realized that this is not for me and I'm not going to do it, right? Now, how I thought about this, I'm going to get into. So if you're a young person and you want to decide what to do with your life, there are two paths that you can follow. We're going to call them path 1 and path 2. Path 1 is where you do not opt for formalized education. You don't get traditional degrees. Instead, you opt for figuring things out on your own, acquiring skills, and then building the life that you want slowly and gradually. Path 2 is where you study hard, you score well, you get into a good college, you get a good degree, and then you get a good job, right? And that is how you reach the success or acquire the success that you want. Now I realize that most people opt for path 2, traditionally speaking, right? Very few people opt for path 1. Why is that? The people who do opt for path 2 argue that it guarantees success, or there's more money to be made, or your chances of success are higher, or whatever that is. But I realize that is not actually the case. Path 1 or path 2 में से your ability to earn a lot of money is much higher in path 1. Your income ceiling is much higher in path 1. Path 2 you'll get a job and you will have your income capped at least for a little while. Path 1 there is no cap to your income. You can increase it till as much as you like, right? Which one has more freedom? Path 1 has more freedom. You can choose the life that you want to build for yourself. You can choose the number of hours that you work for that life. Path 2 you don't have those freedoms, right? And lastly, odds of success are much higher in path 1, although people tend to think otherwise, because here it is in your hands. You're not dependent on an exam or on an institution or on a company to give you a job. It is all with you. So if you work hard enough, if you got the right skills, you will succeed. Despite this, most people still choose path 2, right? And here's the reason, or here is my hypothesis why most people choose path 2, is because path 2 has the one thing that path 1 doesn't have. That is certainty, and that is what most people choose to have, right? Path 2 is clearly laid out. You know what you have to do to get to the next step. अच्छे से पढ़ो तो एग्जाम क्रैक होगा, एग्जाम क्रैक होगा तो एडमिशन मिलेगा, एडमिशन मिलेगा तो अच्छी नौकरी मिलेगी, अच्छी नौकरी मिलेगी तो पैसा मिलेगा. It's clearly laid out. Path 1, however, is not so clearly laid out. There you have to figure out every step before you walk the step. Everything you have to build on your own. So nothing is laid out for you. There are a million different potential paths and potential steps you can take, and you have to decide which one you take. And that uncertainty most people cannot deal with or do not want to deal with. That is why they opt for path 2. Here's some food for thought for you. Historically, think about this from an evolutionary perspective. Humans were wired to live in environments with uncertainty. जब settle हम लोग नहीं हुए थे और जब civilization नहीं थी, तो people used to go out and hunt for food or look for food or pick berries and pick fruits and all of that. But like you did not know whether you would survive the next day, whether you would find food the next day. The entire environment was filled with uncertainty. And so we have also been wired across centuries to live and thrive in environments of uncertainty, because uncertainty creates adventure and adventure creates purpose. Jordan Peterson says this in his explanation of the biblical story of Adam and Eve. Why was the snake put in the Garden of Eden? It was to symbolize danger, it was to symbolize uncertainty, because when there's danger in your life and there's uncertainty, you're on your toes, you have adventure, and so you have purpose. And by opting for the second path, which does away with any uncertainty in their life, people are actually choosing to live a life void of purpose, void of adventure. And if I were you, I'd be very careful of doing that. So after doing all of this analysis and thinking about it, I came to the conclusion that the MBA was not the right option for me, and I should not go to the IIMs or any other B schools. Instead, I should focus on figuring things out on my own, starting something from scratch and learning my lessons from the mistakes that I make. So I started a marketing agency in January of 2023. It was called Roadhouse Media. I started out with a friend, and it was very spur of the moment. So we were sitting at a dinner table, and he said to me, "Hey, I've just made a website for a marketing agency. Do you think we can go out and start pitching this to local businesses?" I said, "Sure." And then the next day we just headed out and started showing the website to local businesses. We knocked on their doors and we said, "Hey, we can do this, this and this for you." Although I had no skills, मेरे को marketing नहीं आता था, मुझे social media पे content बनाना नहीं आता था, मुझे advertise करना नहीं आता था. I knew nothing. But after we signed on clients, I started figuring out the service delivery. I started learning a lot of things, and now some of the core services that we provide as an agency, I actually learned all of the skills during the past year. So doing this for around 11 months now, I have learned a lot, I have evolved a lot, I have met a lot of people, made a lot of mistakes, and I can bet my shirt on the fact that I have become a much better person than I would have perhaps by doing an MBA or getting into college, right? So, and now I spend all this time making this content so that people who are in a similar position can perhaps make better decisions, because I sure wish that someone had told me these things when I was 18, 19 and 20 years old. And now if you are someone who's in that spot, who's trying to live a better life, who's trying to make better decisions, who's ambitious, who wants to reach certain goals, then I hope that I can add some value to your life, and perhaps this will help you reach those goals a little faster.